So that was my first big disappointment when I arrived in Korea, that Chung Dahm wasn't really interested in helping me get to my hotel. Um, so, like, I'd probably been awake for something like 36 hours, and I was just exhausted at the end of all of that. And I was pretty annoyed with Jennifer, because all of this could have been avoided if they'd actually been better organized and made the effort to make sure that these call fans were going to be available at the times that that the incoming teachers were going to arrive at the CDO terminal. And furthermore, she didn't really take any initiative to address the situation after I told her that there were no vans there. So that was like, 4 hours of extra exhaustion for me that could have been avoided with better organization. So anyway, I finally arrive at my hotel on late Tuesday night, and normally when you start the training for Chung Dahm at the training center in Seoul, I think you're meant to start the very next day, like just right after, all that traveling, wherever you've come from. You've probably been on a plane for 10, 15 hours, and they want you to start the very next day. Fortunately for me, it didn't work like that when I was doing the training, because this was the time of the swine flu. So, Chung Dahm was really concerned about new teachers coming from abroad and giving all the children in their hagwons swine flu. So, luckily for me, I didn't have to start training the very next day. So they actually wanted us to be in Korea for 5 days before we actually started training, and so that by the end of training, if we did have swine flu, the symptoms would be apparent by then. So, luckily, I didn't actually start training the next morning, but if it hadn't been for the swine flu, I think I probably would have started training the very next morning, and that would have been an absolute disaster. But, thanks to the swine flu, I didn't have to do that. So I had 5 days, about 5 days, in Seoul until my training started. So I didn't really have a lot to do, and Chung Dahm requested that we all be isolated from each other, and that we didn't really have any contact with other people in case we have swine flu. So during those 5 days, not a real lot to report. We had to report our temperature twice a day by email and send that to Chung Dahm to make sure we didn't have swine flu. And then we also had to have our temperatures checked individually by the recruiters. So the recruiters came around to all the hotels that we were in and checked our temperatures personally to make sure that we weren't lying. So all of the people doing the training, the week that I was doing training, we were all in separate hotels because they didn't want us to give swine flu to each other or whatever. So we were all in different hotels, and so we had to report our temperature. And also on the Thursday before the week of the training, we also had to go and take a medical examination for the E2 exam. So that's normally done during the training week, but we actually had that done before the training week. So that was actually better that it worked out that way. I thought that I was actually that I'd actually been saved by having this extra 5 days to recover from the flight and exhaustion before the training started, because normally it starts straight away. But actually, I was wrong, because when I started the training the next week, things sort of went from bad to worse.